Postgame. 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 Postgame.
Hello there, everybody, and welcome to Postgame. This is your first bonus episode here on Sports and Other Things of the Sort. We've got a pretty light show for you today. First, I'm going to talk about the wild card results from the NFL and tell you the matchups going into the divisional round, and then we're going to go over the Pelicans' problem. Let's start off right away with the Texans versus the Chargers. The Texans won against the Chargers 32-12. Some of the standout players for the Texans: CJ Stroud threw 282 yards with one touchdown and one interception. Joe Mixon rushed for 106 yards on 25 carries with one touchdown. Nico Collins had the one touchdown from CJ Stroud on 7 receptions with 122 yards. The Texans' defense, standout performance here. They had 4 sacks, 4 interceptions, and 1 touchdown. Pretty great defense for the Texans. And unfortunately for Chargers fans, they fell victim to it. Justin Herbert threw for 242 yards with 1 touchdown and the aforementioned 4 interceptions. Ladd McConkey had 197 receiving yards with 1 touchdown on 9 receptions. And the defense for the Chargers was pretty good. 3 sacks and 1 interception. But your quarterback got intercepted 4 times. There's not much you can do to defend that. On to the Ravens versus Steelers, and I'm sorry, but the streak continues for the Steelers, as this is the 5th season in a row they are one and done in the playoffs. The Ravens beat the Steelers 28-14. Lamar Jackson threw 175 yards with 2 touchdowns and no interceptions. Derrick Henry ran for 186 yards with 2 rushing touchdowns, and Rashad Bateman and Justice Hill each caught a touchdown. On the Steelers side, not much star power, I guess. Russell Wilson threw for 270 yards with 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, so a clean game from both quarterbacks. George Pickens and Van Jefferson caught one of those touchdowns. Moving on to the next game, Bills versus Broncos. The Broncos got stomped by the Bills. Josh Allen threw for 272 yards with 2 touchdowns. James Cook ran for 120 yards with 1 touchdown, and Curtis Samuel and Ty Johnson caught 1 touchdown each. The Broncos, not so lucky. Bo Nix threw for only 144 yards with 1 touchdown, and Troy Franklin was on the receiving end of that touchdown. Moving on to the Eagles versus the Packers. The Eagles won 22-10. Jalen Hurts threw for 131 yards, which is pretty low, but he did throw for 2 touchdowns. I'm about to butcher this last name, so give me some grace here. But Dallas Goedert and Jahan Dotson each caught 1 touchdown. On defense, Nolan Smith Jr. had 2 sacks, and the defense as a whole had 3 interceptions. For the Packers, not much going again. Jordan Love threw for 212 yards, no touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Josh Jacobs ran for 81 yards with 1 touchdown. Probably the biggest upset coming up here. The Commanders beat the Buccaneers 23-20. Jaden Daniels threw for 268 yards with 2 touchdowns. De'Ami Brown and Terry McLaurin both had 89 yards and both had 1 touchdown each. Zane Gonzalez had 3 field goals, at least 2 in the 50-yard range, and 1 was to win the game. So, incredible game from Zane Gonzalez there. The Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield threw for 185 yards with 2 touchdowns and 1 fumble. Mike Evans and Bucky Irving each had 1 touchdown. And Chase McLaughlin had 2 field goals. His longest was also from 50. So, pretty fantastic games by the kicker, but ultimately, the Commanders take that game. The Rams versus the Vikings. The Rams beat the Vikings 27-9. Some standout players for the Rams. Matthew Stafford threw for 209 yards with 2 touchdowns. Kyron Williams and Davis Allen both caught a touchdown for their side. On the defense, they had 9 total sacks. 9 total sacks and 1 interception. Jared Verse on the defense had 1 fumble recovery for a 57-yard touchdown. Great defensive play from the Rams. Made Sam Darnold look like a fool. Speaking of Sam Darnold, he threw for 245 yards, only 1 touchdown with 1 interception and 1 fumble. TJ Hawkinson was the receiver for that 1 touchdown. Well, that does it for all the wild card games. In the AFC, it will be the Chiefs versus the Texans on January 18th at 4:30 on ESPN and ABC. And the Bills versus the Ravens on January 19th at 6:30 on CBS and Paramount+. On the NFC side, it will be the Lions versus the Commanders on January 18th at 8 o'clock p.m. on Fox, and the Eagles versus the Rams on January 19th at 3 o'clock p.m. on NBC and Peacock. We're going to have some great football here ahead of us, so if you can catch a game, you don't want to miss it. Now moving on to the Pelicans' problem. What is the Pelicans' problem, you may ask? I'd correct you. The question is, who is the Pelicans' problem? And in my opinion, the Pelicans' problem is Zion Williamson. For the simple fact that this guy came on the scene, number 1 draft pick, supposed to be the second coming of Christ for this franchise, turn the franchise around, get them to the playoffs, get them to a championship, and he has missed more than half of the games that he could have possibly played at the time of this recording. In this season so far, he's only played 8 of the 40 games. He's only played 20% of the Pelican season so far. He has missed over his whole career 258 games because of injury or whatever you may have. If I'm Zion Williamson, I would start kicking my butt into gear, because I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the season, and Zion still hasn't played half of the games in the season, I would not be surprised if Zion was traded or dropped to the G League or something like that, because he clearly needs an attitude check, or he needs to be humbled in some way, because he doesn't seem to be taking his job seriously. The Pelicans have a problem. His name is Zion Williamson. I don't know how you solve it, because he seems like he sounds like he's entitled to anything. He doesn't play, but he gets millions of dollars for it. If I were the Pelicans, I'd be hesitant to keep him for any longer than I have to. Well, that will do it for the first episode of Postgame. I hope you enjoy this bonus episode. Don't forget, I'm going to say all the classic things. Don't forget to hit the follow button. Don't forget to hit the little notification bell if that's what it is, so you never miss an episode of any kind, whether it be a bonus episode or your regularly scheduled Friday episode. With that, I'm Lucas Stein. Thank you for enjoying my rant and my babbling, because I know I stuttered at least 400 million times, and I'll see you this Friday.